Have you ever wanted something so bad that you just wouldn't give up until you got it? I mean, really, really wanted it. Like when you were a kid and you begged your parents for that one thing, whether it was a puppy, a bike, or maybe a game you couldn't stop thinking about. Well, that's exactly what happened to Miley. But here's the twist. She didn't want a dog or a cat. Nope. She wanted a pig. Yeah, you heard that right. A pig. And not just any pig. She wanted a pet pig to love and take care of. At first, her parents thought it was just a phase. Like, okay, maybe she saw a cute piglet in a cartoon or something and got obsessed. But days passed, then weeks, and Miley never changed her mind. She was serious. And that's where this story begins. Now, if you're a parent, you know how kids can be when they get an idea stuck in their heads. They won't stop talking about it. Miley was no different. She kept saying, I want a pig. Not a dog, not a hamster, a pig. Her parents thought it was ridiculous. Who has a pig in their house? That's not a pet, right? They tried to convince her to get a puppy instead. They showed her pictures of cute dogs, even took her to a shelter. But nope, she didn't want a dog. So they finally gave in. After all, Miley wasn't asking for a new phone or a fancy gadget. She just wanted a little pig to love. So they started doing research, and eventually they found the perfect piglet. And that's how Gizmo came into the picture. The second Gizmo arrived, it was obvious. This pig wasn't just an animal to Miley, he was her best friend. They connected instantly, like they had known each other forever. And when I say Gizmo followed her everywhere, I mean everywhere. If she was in the kitchen, Gizmo was right there, standing at her feet. If she sat on the couch, Gizmo climbed up next to her. When she left for school, he'd wait by the door like a little dog, hoping she'd come back soon. It wasn't just cute, it was unreal. The way he trusted her, the way he looked at her. It was like he knew she was his person. But then, everything changed. One day, Miley's parents decided to take in another pig. But this time, it wasn't a tiny piglet like Gizmo. It was a rescue pig. His name was Bentley. Now, if you've ever had a rescue pet, you know they're different. They've been through things. They don't trust as easily. Bentley was no exception. He had been passed around from place to place. First, he was bred to be sold. Then, he ended up with someone who didn't really care about him. Eventually, that person gave him away, and that's how he ended up in a rescue. By the time he came to Miley's house, he had already learned one thing: don't trust humans. Unlike Gizmo, who loved people and followed Miley everywhere, Bentley wanted nothing to do with her. He didn't want to be touched. He didn't even want to be near her. If she got too close, he'd walk away. Imagine that for a second. Imagine bringing home a new pet, thinking it's going to be a fun and happy moment, but instead they act like they don't want anything to do with you. Most people would have given up. But not Miley. She was determined. She refused to let Bentley live in fear. So she started spending every free moment with him. She didn't force him to cuddle or play. She just sat near him, letting him get used to her presence. If he moved, she stayed still. She gave him space. And at night, she did something that most people would never do. She slept on the floor next to him. She didn't care how uncomfortable it was. She just wanted him to feel safe. And slowly, he started to change. One day, Bentley let her pet him. Just for a second. Just a tiny moment. But it was huge. Then, a few days later, he started following her around the house. Not as close as Gizmo, but close enough that it was clear he was beginning to trust her. Then, one day, out of nowhere, Bentley did something Miley never expected. He laid down next to her and rested his head on her lap. If you've ever had an animal that was scared of you finally let their guard down, you know what that moment feels like. It's like winning the lottery, but instead of money, you get something even better: trust. Now that Bentley trusted Miley, she wanted to see if he and Gizmo could learn some tricks. People always assume pigs are just farm animals, but Miley wanted to prove that pigs are actually really smart, so she started training them, just like you would train a dog. And guess what? They caught on fast. She taught them to sit on command, then to spin around in circles. Then she took it up a notch. She got plastic cups and taught them to recognize different colors. They learned it all. And then she had an idea. Miley wanted to bring Gizmo and Bentley to school. She wanted to show everyone how special they were. At first, her teachers weren't sure. Bringing pigs to school. It wasn't exactly normal, but she convinced them. And on the day of the presentation, her classmates couldn't believe what they were seeing. She had Gizmo sit. He did it. She told Bentley to spin. He spun. She pointed to a blue cup and told Gizmo to touch it. He touched the right one. The whole class was blown away. Afterward, her classmates started looking at pigs differently. They weren't just farm animals. They were smart, loyal, loving, and most of all, they were family. Today, Gizmo and Bentley aren't just animals living in Miley's house. They're her brothers, her best friends. They have their own personalities, their own quirks, their own way of showing love. They changed her life just as much as she changed theirs. Here's the thing, this isn't just a story about pigs. It's about love. It's about patience. It's about seeing beyond what people expect and understanding that animals, no matter what kind, can form deep, meaningful bonds with us. Maybe you've never thought about having a pet like a pig before. Maybe you've always just assumed that only dogs or cats could be loving companions. But stories like Miley's prove that love doesn't have a rulebook. It doesn't have to look a certain way. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had an animal change your life? Maybe a dog that helped you through a tough time. A cat that just seemed to understand you. Or maybe, after hearing this story, you're starting to wonder, maybe there's room in your life for a pet you never considered before. If this story touched you, hit that like button. And if you want more stories like this, make sure to subscribe. And most importantly, keep your heart open. You never know what kind of love might find you.